I'm a stand-up comic. I'm not much of a storyteller. So this is going to be like a sort of a lot of jokey jokes and then story in the middle. So, and I'm not very... I try to do storytelling. I'm not as good as... Like, I have a friend who, he can make a funny story about anything. Like he'll get a rectal exam, and then he'll tell, like, a 10-minute long story about getting a rectal exam. And I can't do that, which means I just got a rectal exam for nothing. I don't even want the results. The doctor keeps calling, like, I found something. I'm like, it's a crayon, leave it.
Welcome to Closet Cases, the show where LGBTQ comedians and performers tell their coming out stories live on stage and later go deeper in a podcast. We have an amazing comedian who you know from the New York Comedy Festival, Jaye McBride. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. First of all, the show was awesome, and it was great to be on the podcast.
Oh, the
show was so much fun.
You were phenomenal. You were hysterical.
Thanks.
Everyone was in stitches.
Oh, good.
And it was so good. And it's the first time we met, actually.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I'm not really a jokey person. I sort of a story person. So to tell an actual story in that form, it was really fun. It was different, and it was cool.
What I liked about it was you were telling. Yeah, I could tell, like, a lot of the jokes were your stand-up intertwined with the story. And I kind of like that. That's what I like about this show in particular, is that we do have a lot of stand-up comedians, and I think it does add a different flavor to the show than most storytelling shows.
Yes, definitely.
Coming out, as we know, it's not always funny.
Right, and it's different for everyone too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's sometimes painful, but I mean, the thing is, the more painful, if you survive, you can laugh at it a little bit. At least that's the goal. I mean, not always, obviously, but sometimes that pain just gives you something, like, it makes you who you are. So, and hopefully that's what happened with me.
So you save on therapy bills, and it gets replaced with drink tickets.
Exactly. It's so much better. It's my bartender is my therapist, so it works out both ways. So it's fine.
And then how long have you been doing stand-up?
I've been doing it. This is my 10th year.
Oh, wow.
I know.
10 year.
I started in Albany. 518 what?
Wow. Albany?
I know. Yeah, Albany, which it was one of those things. First, it's still a small town, and it's a city, both. It's very liberal in Albany, but then you go 10 minutes in any direction, and you see Confederate flags and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, it could be brutal. But it's also a place where I knew I could get 4 half-hour sets in a weekend, which I couldn't in New York, so.
Are you listening, comics? Know where you can get your long sets.
That's right. And get this, I got paid.
Yes!
What? I know. Can you believe it?
Win.
It's another world up there. So that was good. But yeah, it was time to move.
So just so you guys know, I am transgender. So don't clap. I only did it to play women's golf. Comedy works too. No, but please, like, you guys didn't know, I'm in Greenwich Village in New York City at the gayest bar there is. Y'all are looking at me like, you're either trans or you're a drag queen who's just not putting in the effort. But I go upstate, man, they have no idea. Like, I did this one show in Poughkeepsie. These two guys were buying me drinks for hours. Oh yeah, I didn't even know what the drinks were. They just kept handing them to me saying, hey, I hope you like surprises. I'm like, right back at you. So, but no, I am transgender, so this is going to be a little bit about coming out as trans. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, when I first knew, and, like, my earliest memories I knew I was trans. Like, I can't prove it, but I'm fairly sure, like, when I came out of my mom's vagina, I was like, I gotta get me one of these. It's like, it's sweet. Maybe a different smell, but overall. And that's where I lost the 90% lesbian crowd. And that's where they turned. No, or like, we took the dog to the vet to get fixed, and I was in the back yelling, "Do me next!" So, but I knew, like, really early on, I think one of my first memories that I usually tell people is like I think I was like 5 or so, and we went to this little, like, county fair or something like that, and it was me and my brother, my dad, and my mom, and then there were these buckets of toys, one for girls, one for boys, and I just reached into the girls' bucket, and that was perfect, and it was like a necklace of pearls, my mom, my brother reached in. Here's what toys were like back then. It was like a miniature jackknife you know? Oh yeah, it really was, because that's what I used to try and cut off my penis for the first time. That's not true. That's not true. That's just to be graphic.
So you had some self-discovery at the county fair at age 5.
As all young people do. For better or worse. And I don't even think it was sort of self-discovery, but reaching in to get that, the girl's bucket of toys, it just felt so... it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I do that? You know, that's, and then, then like, just like, I don't know if it was I felt shame at that point, or maybe looking back, I'm imposing that on other people. I mean, like today, I think most people just wouldn't, like, oh, okay, whatever. See what, maybe it's just a phase. But at the time, I feel like I let my dad down looking back at it.
So you did have a moment of shame just personally from picking out the necklace?
I do. And again, I don't know if I even knew what shame was at that age. You know what I mean? But looking back, that's one thing that always hits me, at that story. And like, it was just one of those things, meanwhile, my brother had like this little toy jackknife or whatever, and he's like, which he had for years, and none of us killed each other for some reason, which is a miracle in itself. But it just felt different. And I don't know why. And I knew I was always different from everyone just in general, that whole nonconformist thing.
Right.
But also, it was just another facet to that.
Did your brothers notice the differences as well, or is that something that you had internalized for yourself?
If they did, they hid it pretty well. And also I hid it pretty well. So, once I learned that it wasn't something that I could just show the world, it became something that I tried to hide. And it's just so any tiny bit of femininity I would hide for years, and which is tough to do because we lived in one of those houses where our dad insisted everyone like leave the door open when they peed. I don't know what that was about.
No, mine too.
Really?
Yes.
What's that up? What's up with that? Meanwhile, we're 4 years old, and it's not like we have a lot to brag about, and just standing around the toilet like a bunch of elephants at the drinking hole. It was horrible looking back, but I don't know. Where does that come from?
I don't know. That's so bizarre. Maybe it's like outhouse theory. I don't. You know what I mean? Right. Or just like peeing outside. You're so used to
Maybe.
it.
I don't know. I swear he would have put a trough in the living room if he could have. But
yeah, my dad was the exact same way. Like it was just like my dad used to pee with the door open. My older brother. But then we also didn't have any locks on our doors. So everyone would just like sort of walk in and use the bathroom, and that was just okay.
Yeah, that's true too. God, oh my God. And I remember if someone was peeing, like when we got older and more disgusting, if someone was peeing in the toilet, someone would go to the sink. It was so gross. And I was just, yeah.
Was that rural Albany, or were you in Albany?
At this time, it was like 2 hours north of Albany.
Okay, so you were like in the sticks.
Oh yeah. In the Adirondacks, right down Lake Champlain.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, at least you had lakefront views.
But everyone thinks Lake Champlain's gorgeous, but you still have to wear sneakers when you go to the beach. You know what I mean? It's still kind of gross. But I don't know.
And how many siblings did you have?
3 brothers. One older and 2 younger.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So middle child too, on top of all of that.
I know, right? Just pile it on. Middle child, Catholic, all that. So.
Oh gosh, we're gonna get to the Catholic stuff later. Yeah. No dear.
That's always good.
Is there anyone in your family who identifies as LGBTQ at all, or are you?
No.
Oh, just you.
It. And I have 27 cousins.
What?
Statistically, there's something going on.
I know.
Something's, come on.
Someone's hitting the truck stop.
Right. Yeah, please. Someone's like saying, like, let's just give it a couple more years, see how it is with Jay, and then I'll come out. I don't know. Or maybe I just like took all of that, and combined it into a super trans,
Yes.
Into a super LGBT.
So. I think they should make a comic book after you.
There we go.
Super trans. Jaye McBride.
Like I knew early on, so it was like a thing, but I never knew what the word was called because when I was younger, I didn't have the internet. It wasn't like it didn't come out until I was like in college and that. But so like I didn't know, and then I think I was probably 12 or so, and we're watching this talk show, and on the talk show there were like all these drag queens and female impersonators walking out, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. It was me and my brothers in the living room. They're like throwing a football at lamps and shit like that. And I'm like, drag queens, that's it. You know, and I thought, like, perfect, that's it. That's got to be it. And then right then, my dad walks into the room, looks at the TV and says, if any of you turn out like that, I'll kill you. Yeah. So that's also when I knew, like, I could never come out as trans. But fortunately, here's the joke I say about my dad. I say a couple jokes about him, and one of them I said, it's like, I remember when I was little, I said, Dad, what do you call a little boy who wants to be a little girl? And he said, I don't know, but they're definitely not getting any ice cream. It's terrible, right? Don't worry, he dies in the end. So. My dad died around Christmas time, which was tough. I didn't know what to ask for because I already got what I wanted. Look, this is how I heal, okay?
Wow, it sounds like you and your dad had a really tumultuous relationship. I mean, did he have any redeeming qualities at all?
Well, he was very good at withholding love. Is that a redeeming quality? I don't know.
It's a mutant power, I think.
Yeah,
Definitely a mutant power.
That and alcoholism were superpowers. No, it was tough, and I'm sure, like, from the outside, we looked like this great family. We actually won Family of the Year in our small town, which I don't know. I don't know. It was tough because he wasn't extremely violent. But he would beat the hell out of us once in a while.
Oh, wow.
And like me, I caught the brunt of it, I think. You know, anytime I did something, it was just like, I know like parents say they don't have favorites. He had favorites. He definitely had a least favorite, you know, and it was tough. I mean, I do a lot of jokes saying like how I say, like, I talked to him about being transgender, you know, and his reaction, that never happened. I just hit it. You know what I mean? I didn't do anything because once I saw that talk show and that moment, just like, I'm like, it was such a relief to see someone that I thought I was like, and then just have it like yanked away from me. It was crushing. And then it was yet another more evidence that I should hide who I am, you know?
Do you think your dad knew, and that's why he sort of selected you out and treated you differently from the other brothers?
I'm sure. I mean, I think at the time, like, there was really, people weren't talking about being trans. When I was growing up, we didn't have the internet until later on, you know, when I was in college and that. But no, he knew something was up. I'm sure he thought I was gay. And, you know, I'm just sure of it. And he was, you know, very anti-gay. So the whole family was really until college when we started to get our own ideas, you know.
Right,
we started to be like, oh, wait, everything I learned was wrong, you know. But
where did you go to college?
First, I went to a place called Clarkson, an engineering school even further north and further in the woods. Right, because why not? What could go wrong? Which had a 7-to-1 guy to girl ratio, which, you know, I thought, you know, when you get lemons. But I flunked out of there. My dad died in the middle of freshman year, and then I made another year and a half. But I was just like, engineering, like when you take nuclear physics. And I mean, on a good day, I would have a tough time with that, but struggling with everything else, I was like, forget it. And then I dropped out and ended up going to SUNY Albany, and that's why I located in Albany.
Oh, wow. And then it's more liberal, so...
It is, yeah. Very, very. So I actually tried to do ROTC in college. My dad made me.
Wow.
Yeah, that was tough. That was brutal. You know, so it was another one of those things, like, and I could tell he was proud of me for doing it and proud of me. Like, I didn't want to just pass the number of push-ups. I wanted to max out the number of push-ups. You could do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I know, looking at my frail features, you say, but you're so delicate and feminine. I know that's what you're thinking. But, yeah, so it was, that was, you know, I tried to go all into it, tried to be like, forget it. I can't be trans. I can't be gay. None of that stuff. I gotta work at it, and that'll stop me, which... Guess what? Which, believe it or not, it didn't work. didn't take.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, when you were watching the talk show and
Mm-hmm.
you saw drag queens, do you feel like you identified with them because there was no representation of trans people at the time on television?
100%. And actually, it wasn't just drag queens. It was also female impersonators at the time,
Oh,
which
wow.
was like a whole nother
Another
realm.
thing,
I
yeah.
don't even think that exists anymore. But there were people who...
Well, there's Chad Michaels, who's still the Cher
Oh, okay,
impersonator.
right. There was. It was like a Vegas show where they'd be like, "Look at these men; they look just like women." You know, so it wasn't an over the top drag.
Yeah.
It was more like realistic, like I guess fishy drag is
like,
what they would call it now. But
They're illusionists.
right, magicians. Yeah, they make a lot disappear. I'm about to tell you what they're making disappear. Watch me make my balls disappear.
Plus, it was like a really religious family. I grew up Irish Catholic. Oh, a bunch of some of you? Yeah. Let's see how Irish Catholic you are, though. How many kids did your grandmother have?
Oh.
11. Someone said 11. 5. What an amateur. Did someone really say 11? Because 11, that's a good Irish Catholic woman, right? You know, like my grandmother had 10 kids. And she had 2 miscarriages. So she was pregnant 12 times in 16 years. Yeah, she didn't have periods. She had commas. Thank you. Did someone just hail me? I told you it's gonna be half stand-up. All right, I'm sorry. But but people always say like you were raised more religiously, you would have turned out normal. Please, honey, I was an altar boy, and I loved it. Oh yeah, it was the one time a week I could wear a dress. It was great. I loved it. But man, that Catholic guilt is something else though. It's one of those things. Like one of the things I tell people, this is where it gets down a little bit, gets a little real. What I would do, I would like pray, like, all right, God needs to change me to a girl. That's it. That's the only way it'll happen. And it never did. And so I was actually pretty depressed at one point. And yes, I think they say 41% of trans people have attempted suicide. And yes, I attempted suicide. All right, spoiler alert, okay? Come on, don't get so depressed on me. I don't know. So what I did, I would get drunk all the time, being Irish Catholic, and then I attempted to. And I remember that one time I tried it. I took out this serrated knife, and I took out a knife. I didn't realize it was serrated at the time, but then I started, to slit my wrist, and all that happened is like a little scar came off because it's serrated. So a half hour later, and it didn't work. But after that point, it was there were a couple times, but it was like the second time I tried to commit suicide, it was like I was gonna get really drunk and slit my femoral artery, and did some Googling. And so I got really drunk. Right as I was there with the knife, my brother called. And we talked, and it was amazing.
So you had 2 suicide attempts, and I think to help people listening out there, what would Jay now tell Jay then?
Right. Don't use a serrated knife. Use a box cutter. What I would do if I went back, I would just I was talking to someone else about it, looking back at this young kid, and looking back at this person. She said, "No, that young kid that you used to be was brave, and they took all that punishment in order for you to be who you are today." And I would just give that child, it's hard to say me, it's weird to say me, I would just give them the biggest hug and just say this is how it turns out. It's not too shabby, right?
Yeah.
You can live with this, right? You know what I mean? That's what I would say. I would just, and it made me feel really good. Actually, the comic Lynn Coplitz is very funny. She's great. We were on the road, she was talking about that, and just the way she put it was just gave me such perspective to think about how this, for a long time I hated who I was growing up, but really it's who I was and who made me who I was, and they were so strong for me, that person.
Yeah.
So I would just, I would first of all, I would say, here's the psychologist that's going to help you. Call them now instead of waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me give you a bottle of hormones. Let's start that process a little earlier too.
Yes.
No, but it just, that's probably what I would say. I would just give them the biggest hug ever and be like, let's go, let's go try on some dresses for old time's sake.
Well, also talking about you being an altar boy and wearing the dresses, do you actually wear dresses at home, or did you try? Did you experiment at all
yeah.
with
It was tough
accessories?
with 3 brothers, so I'd have to fake a lot of illnesses. So, but then I'd be home and like, oh man, my mom, I would dive headfirst into her closet wherever she was gone. It was and she had some amazing dresses from like the 70s, which were just like, I tried to tailor a joke into it, and I don't think I told it there, but it just, she had this one great dress with this gold lame and this,
Oh,
like
wow.
this black, like it was like a shared dress. It was just like, so there's so many things I looked at and just loved so much, and it was like my time to just like be me for a little bit.
Yeah.
even if it was just for a few hours, so.
You would fake to be sick at school? Would you, if the family was going out outing, you're like, I'm good, and just kind of?
I would try to. It's like, yeah, definitely. Or like, I just like see if my brothers were playing Nintendo, then I'd be like, hey, I'll be right back, and then I'd shut their door and try and run in there, grab something, run to my room. It was, you try and find ways to do it, and it's just one of those things. You just like, oh, this is it. That was like the only time I could feel like okay.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
As this was happening, were you discovering more and more about yourself? Were you realizing, hey, I think I'm transgender? Or were you still just trying to figure it out at that point?
I think I was still trying to figure it out. And being Catholic, it's like you don't really, like, my answer would have been God at the time.
Yeah.
It's like saying like, okay, well, just pray to God, pray that you wake up a girl, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. I mean, someone's like, kind of it did, but it's like, please, let's not give God credit for my transition, okay? But that's pretty much was my answer. So it just made me want to pray even harder, And,
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, were you Catholic? I can't remember.
No, I'm Protestant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would do like rosaries all the time. Just be like, this is it. This is the time it'll work tomorrow morning. I'm gonna wake up and that'll be it. And it was just it was weird putting that much faith into something looking back.
Yeah.
So and.
Did you go to church every Sunday, or was that?
Oh yeah, we were extremely religious. Like my dad was like, I have an uncle who was a priest actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and my grandmother, Irish Catholic, 10 kids.
Oh yeah,
and
you
that's
said in the
true.
show
That part's
that was
true. That's 100% true. And one was a priest, and it was, and I think they all looked at me as though I would wanted to be a priest, which means they must have known something was up, because like, why else would I? Like, yeah, you'd be such a great priest.
like,
right.
what does that mean?
Right. I have no idea. Like growing up, I used to tell them I wanted to be a race car driver, and they'd be like, what about a priest? I'd be like, all right, or a priest. So.
Did you do any race car driving?
No, I didn't. I think I would like to try it though. I lived in LA for a year. That was as close to got. Driving around the 405.
Exactly.
But,
scary stuff.
Ugh. Yeah, I think I would like to try it. I don't know, just for the heck of it.
You should talk to my twin brother. He's a race car driver.
Is he really?
He is.
Oh wow.
And my nephew and my older brother, they all race cars.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Like I don't watch NASCAR or anything like that.
Yeah.
I have no interest whatsoever. But like the thought of it, just to see how fast I go, would be kind of cool.
Yeah. And going around the turns,
right?
Avoiding the other cars,
rubbing them, rubbing is racing, right? Isn't that what the movie said? Isn't that what Tom Cruise said?
I hope so.
It's one of those things where I realized, like, I can do this. So I finally said, all right, I got to come out to my family. I got to tell them what's going to happen. Now, I've been out full-time as trans for 12 years this past year. Thank you. So, yeah, it was February 22nd, 2007. But I told my family right before Thanksgiving in 2006. And so I figured, 2006, send an email, right? It's new and it's fun. I just got my new Yahoo account, Doritos Locos at Yahoo, or whatever the fuck I was. And so I wrote this long thing. I started at 11 p.m. I didn't get finished till like 2 in the morning. I'm just like typing this. I'm like, all right, there. That's everything I need to say. Everything, I'm gonna send it to my brothers, because I already talked to my mom a little bit. I'm gonna send it to my brothers, and we'll do this. So finally I sat there again for about another 10 minutes getting ready to hit send, and like finally I click send, and it says, error, there's no subject in there. Do you want to resend? And I'm like, oh no! So I did. I resent it, and almost immediately the one brother that I talked to before during one of my suicide attempts was just like, if you need anything, I'm here for you. Which was awesome. Another brother, it's basically I have 3 brothers, and 2 of them were great. 2 of them are awesome. One brother disowned me when he found out I was trans, but here's my joke about that. I said, like, I try and take the high road, like when I heard that brother that doesn't like me, when I heard he and his wife had a child, they sent him the nicest greeting card. It said, congratulations, it's a boy. For now. Yeah, so anyway, that's how we heal, I talk about dead dad and my brother disowning me.
So you've been out for 12 years, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Like,
Yeah.
woo,
That's right.
Pop some bottles, am I right?
Full time for 12 years, and 12 and a half, that's when I came out to my family, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was a shitty Thanksgiving. I sort of ruined that one, but what can you do?
Well, I have to commend your bravery. I mean, coming out on email, because first of all, people can forward and print that shit.
Right.
Versus a phone call, and like no one can forward that stuff.
Right. That was worse than anything in Hillary's email. I guarantee it was. And it was. It's just. I think that pretty much this how that happened and what happened afterwards. The response just pretty much shows how things went. Like my one older brother just said, like he's the one who I haven't talked to in 12 years.
Yeah.
His response is like, you handle this or something like that. Some weird thing like I'm not like. I'll let you 2 take care of this one, assuming like all my brothers would be on his side, but they weren't. They're just like, one called and just like, do you need anything? The other called and said, hey, anything you want, and whatever it is, I still love you. But it's just the one brother and his response, and that was it. He just, still hasn't talked. I mean, at our mother's funeral 3 years ago, he didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your mom.
It was weird because like around other people, he didn't want to look like an asshole. So he'd be like, "Hey, how about you give me a hug?" I'm like, you motherfucker, you took away my only 2 nephews and niece, basically. You made it so I couldn't see them for years, and I have more now. But it's just like at the time, it was just like you cold. Fuck you.
Yeah.
But
you can swear on this podcast if you need to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had to a few times. So that's what it's. And now it's easier to look at it like, no, you didn't cut me out of your family. I cut you out of mine.
Right.
And from now on, that's how I'm looking at it. Like I don't need you in my life.
Right.
So
well, you get to choose your family, which is kind of
pretty much
amazing.
Pretty much, yeah.
And your one brother, he helped you through your suicide attempt.
Right, he did, yeah. And like the other one didn't know he would have done the same thing for sure. It just so happened he just happened to call me as I was like the last time I didn't actually try suicide the time he called. I was like there, I was sitting in bed with a box cutter and I was drunk out of my mind and I kept drinking. I had a bottle of like iced tea vodka.
Oh god.
I had like lemonade and iced tea vodka. I was making those and it's just like, this is it. Just do it. Get it over with. And then he called, and it was great. This is actually after I transitioned that last time too. But it was just like,
oh wow.
It was like, and which sounds like, why would you do that? You sound like everything's great after you transition, and then you realize like you still have a society that hates you, and that's what you have to work on too. And you still hate yourself, and you still hate aspects of yourself. So. It was one of those things. It was good. I got back into therapy. I started working on myself. I got different meds. Which, I mean, it's huge. And it just, you start to realize, like, one, yes, you get to pick your own family. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to worry about my older brother. I didn't have to feel like I was missing out. And then you realize this is who you are. And you not only can you live with it, you have to live with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing. So what else is there? So
there's nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things, and I found comedy then. I hate that expression. It gets better.
Yeah,
but it got better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So yeah, it really did.
And there's so much catharsis in comedy too.
Yes,
to be able to,
100%.
I mean, in addition to therapy, just to be able to say your piece in front of a crowd and. I think laughter creates a high vibration, so that when you're laughing, it's almost curing in a way that you're you're shoveling your pain on someone else. It's more like, oh, I'm sharing something with you, and you can relate to what I'm dealing with,
Right.
and we're all going to get through it together. I
Yeah.
think that's what's so beautiful about comedy.
It's like they're reaffirming your story for you.
Yeah.
You know, that laughter, it's so reaffirming. Or I'm extremely narcissistic, but, which could be too. But it's just such a you know, it's a great feeling to share your story, to have people come up to me after a show and say, "Wow, one of my friends is trans. Thank you so much for this. One of my, you know, my grandchild is trans. Thank you so much." You know, and stuff like that. And it's really amazing. And I started, like, I tell that joke about the birthday card. You know, so I actually made a card. It said, "Congratulations, it's a boy." You open it up. It says, it's me pop. Like, there's a balloon. It says, "Congratulations, it's a boy." Then you open it up. It's me popping the balloon, and it says, "For now." and it's like, people love those cards. I sell them and just donate $1 to a group called Trans Lifeline for everyone I sell, which is a group that helps trans people who are suicidal. It's a hotline for them.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, like, I can do, and it's just it really makes it so much. Or people out of the blue, I'll be like, "Look, if you're having a tough time transitioning, just email me, Facebook me," and they do.
Yeah.
And we make friendships that way, and it helps to help people.
Absolutely.
In a weird way.
I feel it, and I hope that people who listen to this podcast too take your story, have some self-healing.
Exactly, and you can look at it this way, that this generation, the generation growing up now, had it better than the last generation.
Right.
And the next generation will have it better than this generation. And that's what I look forward to, you know? Like, there's got to be a time where kids can transition, you know, and yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of overdiagnoses, I'm sure of it, but for the most part, the trans kids are getting their help they need, and it's wonderful to see. So, right? I mean, isn't it so? It's just like, whenever I hear a story about someone who's 6, and there's like the parents that are conservatives are like, "No, it's real. This is a thing."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just like, and they become allies. It warms my heart. You know.
And plus, you knew at that point too.
Oh yeah, 100%. There just wasn't a name for it. And
Right.
There wasn't a doctor who could tell you. Most doctors would just be, had no idea. So.
It's incredible. We've come such a long way.
Well, thanks.
And you, look at you.
I know.
Amazing.
Look at me. Well, thank you. I can't do a push-up now, let alone 80 in 2 minutes or whatever it was. But
one thing I don't like to talk about on stage when I do comedy is whether or not I've had surgeries. I feel like it's kind of personal, and like I think people do look at you differently when, like you have to have surgery to be trans, sort of thing. So I don't like to get into that. So when I do my stand-up, in some jokes I have a vagina and some I don't. Depends which jokes are funnier to me at the time. So I do joke a lot about them. And like, has anyone here ever seen a trans person's vagina? No. Okay, good. Then I'll tell this joke about them. Oh, have you?
I have.
Okay, you might like this joke, you may not. All right. What I tell people about like a trans woman when they've had the surgery. First of all, it's fucking expensive. It's like $20,000. You can't just go into like, "Hey, give me a vagina," and then walk out the next day. Like that like story with the Sneetches, Dr. Seuss, where they go in to get the stars put on their belly, and then they go through another and just take them off. It's not like that. But yeah. So anyway, here's for those of you who've never seen a trans person's vagina. It's the way I look at it. It's a lot like one of those like handbags you find on Fifth Avenue. On the sidewalk. Like, those guys, those street vendors on the sidewalk, that selling those quote-unquote name brand bags. It's a lot like that, because it's still useful, but like there's a problem with the stitching. The color's a little off. And most of them are made in Thailand. So, anyway, that's my coming out story. Thank you guys so much.
Jaye McBride, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. I want to talk about the invasive conversations people have with you and about surgeries, and how do you address that when that comes up?
It's my thing with surgery. I understand that that's their question. I think people are programmed to ask that question for some reason, for whatever. It's like, trans people were known as chicks with dicks or she-male. You know, people always had that thing. But I think people need to realize, when they ask me that, I try not to get mad. I just assume it's just it's not coming from a mean place. Although Pauly Shore, the first time I met him, said, "You got a dick, bro?" Like
what?
that. I'm like, fuck you piece of shit.
That's
so that was like the first time I met him when I was featuring him. I was like, at that point, I'm like, all right, later, man. I'll introduce whoever the fuck I want, and that was it. But no, people that do that, for the most part, aren't doing it to be assholes. You know what I mean? And I usually try and tell them, like, it shouldn't matter.
Right.
I'm telling you I'm trans. Don't worry about my genitals.
Right.
You know what I mean? If we're going to date, you know, then we'll talk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then it'll come up. But it shouldn't matter. And the reason why I say it shouldn't matter, like, yes, if you're dating someone, obviously it's an intimate conversation, whether you're sexually compatible or not, and it's a good one to have. But if there are people out there living on the streets who don't have enough money to afford to have surgery, there are people who don't want to have surgery.
Right.
There are people who are fine the way they are, and like it doesn't make them any less trans than, say, like, you know, I mean, like Jazz Jennings is the one, she was on TLC, like doing a whole thing about getting her vagina, her cooter installed, you know, like like there's a whole like 4-part series or something about it. Again, good for her, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that still doesn't make her less trans than the 18-year-old who was kicked out of her parents' house, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's more of an important issue to say, to not focus on genitals, you know?
Yeah.
Anyone's.
Exactly.
Okay? Let's not.
I don't want to think about Paul Ryan's
right.
genitals. I don't want to think about Donald Trump's genitals.
Like, all right, Jason Momoa shared his beard. If he talked about his genitals as well and told me something about them, I'd be just as happy. But for the most part, I don't really want to know about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. So.
No, I agree with that.
So that's how I try and maneuver, and people still say all the time. They still ask. So I'll say it pretty much. If I think it's funnier if I say I have a vagina, I'll tell a joke that way. If I think so, I mean, like my act will have, for all you know, I have both at the same time. You know what I mean? Which just because I just do whatever's funnier. But yeah, that's how I try and handle this.
Do you find that there's been a change and a shift in people, that fewer people are asking now than maybe a few years ago?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people, it takes a lot of, no pun intended, it takes a lot of balls to say that to someone, to a trans person, you know what I mean? But it's just like, so not many people, it doesn't happen as often as it used to, but yeah, not many people do it anymore. Plus, I usually address that in my sets somewhat just to avoid that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll say, that's why I drop little hints about whether A, I've had the surgery, or B, I haven't. I do both. That way they just like, they know it doesn't matter.
Right.
Hopefully.
Exactly. And then in the comedy community, do you feel it's changed a lot for trans people in comedy since you started
Absolutely.
until now?
Absolutely. When I first started comedy, I didn't even talk about being trans. I tried to do it just as a female comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I was afraid, and I'm in Albany. A.
Yeah.
B. It's like I'd be the only trans person they've ever known.
Yeah.
Or met, and you know, so it just. It took a while. Then I started talking about it. A couple times I've had people walk out of shows when I started, you know, once I said that, yeah, which is weird. That doesn't happen much. It also helps being in New York where, you know, like I said, we're on every subway car, you know?
Right.
So it definitely has changed a little bit. So for sure.
And do you think there's a long way to go?
Not in comedy, maybe not, but in politics, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, trans kids are worse off now than they were 2 years ago. You know?
Right.
So there's definitely ways to go for that. But yeah, comedy, I think we're pretty okay. The only thing that is I'm noticing now, it's like I'm pretty much only booked on either LGBT shows or women only shows. You know?
Oh, really?
And that's a little different. Maybe, I don't know if that's just New York or what. In Albany, there weren't any, you know, LGBT shows because there weren't enough LGBT comics. You know, it'd be me and one of my friends, the lesbian comic, you know, on every show, and that's it. But that's one thing that's a little weird. So I don't think people look at me as a comic first. They look at me as a trans person first and a comic second. And that's tough. And I'm trying to break through that. But, you know, what can you do?
You're such a strong comic, though. I love your stage
thanks.
presence. I think your jokes are great. Your delivery is incredible. And I thank you so much for doing this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. This was fun, and the show was a lot of fun. I mean, it was such a great crowd, such a great lineup. It was really a lot of fun, and got to see you sing, which worth the price of admission right there.
Oh, you start. And thank you guys all for listening out there too. So guys, make sure that you share this podcast, rate and subscribe, and also follow us on social media. It's Closet Cases on Twitter. It's Closet Cases Show on Instagram and Facebook. And we have another show coming up on May 8th at the legendary Stonewall at 7 p.m. with an amazing lineup. Go to closetcasesshow.com to see who's playing. Lineup subject to change. And thank you again so much. I really adore you. And please go out and see Jaye McBride perform. Amazing.
Thank you so much. This is so much fun.
Thank you.